All right, hello, and welcome to Creative Mornings March.
Yeah!
Thank you all for coming out. Our theme is reuse, so you might have noticed we've reused some fantastic name tags from reuse. I hope we came up with new answers, though. I'm Erica Hall from Mule Design, a local design studio here in San Francisco. Yay, us. But yay, especially for our fantastic volunteers and helpers, outers. We have Jenny Chu on video. The effervescent and hardworking Benjamin Wynn on getting everything together. Thank you. He buys the booze for your coffee, so very important role. Jason Permenter taking photos that promise to perhaps flatter you and perhaps not. And Whisk SF providing the pastries and coffee and other delightful things. And today we have a special person, Melanie Chopko here, who's going to talk a little bit about what she's doing.
Thanks, Erica. Hi, I'm Melanie Chopko, and I'm a graphic recorder. So I'm going to make a graphic capture of Josh's presentation. So it will all make sense once I start doing it.
She's going to make you make sense.
Fantastic.
A service just for you, Mr. Cagan. And let's see who else we got here. We're thanking Parasoma, our hosts, and Zero, our sponsor. And you can sign up free right over there. Thank you, Zero, for sponsoring our food and providing accounting services for hot Amish hipsters. You yourself are a hot Amish hipster who somehow uses the internet and is in need of online services. Sign up free over there. It's really fantastic, and they are lovely people. And remember, if you're tweeting, use the hashtag SFCN because we're in constant competition for witticisms with every other chapter. They are always watching. And now I'd like to introduce today's speaker. Mr. Josh A. Cagan flew in from Los Angeles to talk to you guys. He is a screenwriter and a delightful person who wrote the movie Bandslam, which I love. The most recent project just wrapped up is Learning Town on the Geek and Sundry channel, and it's delightful. And if you like weird, twisted things about kids shows that are delightful, and you'll just watch it. It's super. And he is also, and most importantly, the host of Like I'm an Idiot on Mule Radio Syndicate, which is a truly, truly delightful podcast on which you will learn things about things. The latest one is about getting a dog, so I'm a big fan of that one. So now, without any more delay or thanking people, except for thanking Mr. Cagan, here he is, Josh Cagan, everybody.
Hello, nerds. First off, I'd like to thank Erica and Creative Mornings for inviting me to speak. I knew they were in a bind when Michelle Schacht dropped out. So too soon. So I'm glad I could be of service. Now, second, I know a lot of you are used to seeing a deck when a person speaks for longer than 30 seconds, but I have absolutely no aptitude for making such things. Mike Montero offered to put together a deck for me, but I was worried that slides of Snooki and Hitler sharing a Philly cheesesteak on the Lincoln Memorial's lap might be more of a distraction than an enhancement. The jury is still out on that. For the 99% of you who have no idea who I am or what I am doing here, and believe me, folks, parenthetically, I consider myself a member of your ranks. My name is Josh A. Cagan, and I am a Hollywood screenwriter. Now, normally when I am in the Bay Area, I'm encouraged to introduce myself as anything else, but I've always wondered what a room full of people rolling their eyes in unison sounded like. So thank you. Today's topic is, when you draw me, can you draw me with Phil Spector's courtroom here? Awesome. Today's topic is reuse, and although my award-winning talk on green business practices, if it's yellow, profits are mellow, if it's brown, double down, would seem like a natural fit for today, I thought I'd talk about my process instead. Specifically, a very important element of it that must be used, reused, and reused on a day-to-day, minute-to-minute, second-to-second basis. That element is not public domain fairy tales, although the way my industry keeps crapping out these goddamn fairy tale movies, you'd think it was. Now, this is actually true. I got a wild hair while drinking beer and watching Top Gear one night. A title just popped into my head, Three Little Pigs, Werewolf Hunters. I immediately called my manager and he informed me that there were already 2 or 3 scripts with that thought in development as we spoke. Rest assured though, mine was going to be awesome because it was going to end with a speedboat chase. We'll get to that actual element in a few minutes, but in order to do that, I'll need to reuse the story of my worst meeting ever. This is about 6 months ago. I'm sitting in the dining room of a Hollywood producer, waiting to give him my take on a sitcom idea. His dining room was the size of my last 5 apartments put together. It was one of those big old Beverly Hills mansions where the sheer size and audacity of the place briefly dwarfed the fact that it was decorated and had the distinct odor of your grandparents' Boca Raton condo. And not the grandparents you were excited to see. The grandparents you were forced to see with the hard candy and the saccharin tablets that burned a hole in your tongue even though they told... Do you ever do that? I'm real old. The producer was running 20 minutes late, which really impressed me. Anyone can be late to a Los Angeles meeting due to traffic or earthquakes or mudslides or, scariest of all to Angelinos, a light drizzle. But it takes special, next-level Hollywood douche ninja skills to show up late to a meeting in your own goddamn house. But show up he finally did, in an untucked dress shirt, jeans that were assuredly hiked up to the nipple line, and socks, looking for all the world like he had lost the clicker and needed it because the game was on. After a few pleasantries, his executive began the process of why I was here in his home drinking his Sanka. As the exec was rattling off my meager accomplishments, he mentioned that their production company at one point was attached to an old script of mine. Producer looked at me and said, "Oh, what's happening with that now?" I gave the standard response that I usually give about my numerous dead projects. The script was probably being used to fix a wobbly table leg at the studio's commissary, haha. He blinked, looked at me dead in the eyes and said, "You know they're never gonna make it. They're never gonna make that movie." This caught me off guard. I did an internal status check. Did my tone of voice seem too hopeful? Were my eyes too wide open and dewy? Did I have the distinct turnipy scent of someone who had just fallen off the proverbial truck? It wasn't, they weren't, and I wish the buses in LA smelled like turnips. Regardless, there was nothing about anything that I had done or said that made it seem like I still hoped that this 5 years dormant script was going to get made into anything else besides a birdcage liner. But here I was, having the cold, hard facts about the entertainment industry mansplained to me by a dude in his socks. My script was dated. Studios don't make movies like that anymore. And even if they did, they wouldn't make mine. I tried to roll with the punches, joked that I at least got paid. His response? "Yeah, well, I didn't." His words reverberated around his Beverly Hills mansion. Then he leaned back, confident that he had schooled me on the topic of what's what, and asked to hear my idea. I launched into my take. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, the take was fine, as Randy Jackson would say. It was aye. This was the first step in a very long, very standard development process in the stupid entertainment industry. Producer's executive gives you a vague idea, tells you to come up with a vague take. You pitch the producer your take. They give you 1,000,000 notes. You turn that into a pitch. You pitch that to the studios. If one of them likes it, they give you 1,000,000 notes, and then you pitch it to the next level of executives, so on and so on. It is a process that takes roughly 100 kabillionty years. And that's the reason why every show and movie that comes out of Hollywood is perfect in every way, shape, and form. In Hollywood, we have a saying, too many cooks in the kitchen? Shit, yeah! So I launched into my take. About halfway through, he stopped me and asked me a question that in my 15 years as a professional writer, I had never heard before. Why is this funny? Now, folks, I'd love to say that I've never heard this question before because I'm so fucking hysterical. Because every single word that leaps out of my beer hole is covered in a fine, pure, uncut dust of comedy gold. Because that is not the case, as I am sure I will learn from your tweets afterwards. No, Mike. No, I've never heard this before because this question is genuinely unanswerable, and unanswerable questions tend to make a meeting drag on. It's why so few Zen masters are Hollywood executives. Hey, so that's my pitch. Any questions? Yes. How does a man with no voice sing the Song of the Sparrow? Can I just get my parking validated? Here's the thing. If a person doesn't think something is funny, no amount of explaining is going to convince them. Comedy is not math. There is math in comedy, but threes, for example, but it's not math. No matter how many times you explain mallet plus Curly's head equals nyuk, 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 solve for nyuk, if someone doesn't laugh, they're never going to laugh. Now, I say this to you as if this is a thing that I have always known. As if I was too smart at the time to answer this question. But there is one thing that I am not, and that is smart. That isn't self-depreciation, by the way. In Hollywood, it's a job requirement. I attempted to answer his question. I attempted to answer his question in the worst possible way, by repeating everything I had just said, but slower and louder. Like I was an elderly American tourist in a foreign land. And if I just talked like this, then the cab driver would go like, oh, you want to go to the Radisson? Of course, my mistake. Needless to say, the producer did not grasp the fact that I wanted to go to the Radisson. Nor was I able to convince him that my take was funny. And because we met at his house, I couldn't get my parking validated. Suffice to say, I left that meeting generally feeling the polar opposite of validated. I walked out humiliated, bummed out, mad. Humiliated that I tried to answer that question like a rookie chump. Bummed out that my time had been wasted. And mad that I didn't have the guts to say, look, it's funny because I say so, old man. Now put on some goddamn shoes. But I wasn't sure when it was all over if it was funny. I wasn't sure if anything I'd ever written was funny. I wasn't even sure that I was a writer. I don't have meetings like this on a weekly basis, but interactions like this in my industry are the norm. So I have these feelings on a weekly, daily basis. Now, this is not to elicit pity, by the way. I know I don't dig ditches. I'm lucky and privileged with a capital white guy to have the job that I have. And it drives me crazy. And it makes me feel like I can't do anything right. It makes me feel like I'm an idiot. The whole thing puts me into this shame spiral where I know I have a great job and it's still a pain in the ass. And it sucks that I think it's a pain in the ass because I know it's a great job. Rinse, repeat, hide under bed, get stuck under bed, wait for the firemen to show up. True story. True. I suspect a lot of us in this room have great jobs. And I suspect they drive us crazy. In theater school, a place where I spent entirely too much time learning entirely too little, they taught a concept called sense memory. Pretty simple. If your character is happy, remember a happy thing that happened to you and use that. If your character has to be sad, you remember a sad thing that happened to you and you use that. If you didn't have a sad thing happen to you, chances are you're not in theater school. So, on the way back from the hell meeting, I remembered how I became a writer in the first place. It was to get out of doing homework. I was a terrible student in high school and junior high. So terrible, in fact, that my mom would police my bedroom door during homework hours, listening for the sound of me typing. I had and have abysmal handwriting, and as a result, I typed out all of my homework on the family TRS-80. Yes, for those of you wondering, I am 1,000 years old. Eventually, I realized that as long as my mom heard the sound of typing, she would think homework was being accomplished and leave me alone. So I started writing sketches, monologues, terrible poetry. Basically anything that wasn't the thing I was being asked to do. As a result, I failed a lot of classes and got yelled at a lot. But something else happened. A teacher told me about a local playwriting competition. I strung together a bunch of monologues into something vaguely resembling a one-person show. I was obsessed with Eric Bogosian at the time, but I got better. And the title of the show, by the way, was Sex, Violence, and the American Way, because I was 15 years old in West Hartford and a gangster. And I submitted it. And I won. I had my play performed at a local college, even got to skip a day of school. Whole family came out to see it. At the end, my grandfather turned to me and said, "You kids did all right." Anyone who knew my grandfather knows that's about the highest compliment he could give. And it felt good. The whole thing felt good. Even though I had gone about it in the worst possible way, I discovered the thing that I loved to do. I discovered the thing I was good at, finally. And I discovered that when I did the thing I loved to do, the thing I was good at, people noticed. People wanted me to keep doing it. And I wanted to keep doing it. And so I did. And so I do. And I thought about all of that on the way back from that meeting with the shoeless mansplainer. I thought about watching my first TV series with my friends and family. I thought about walking the red carpet for my first movie. I thought about the sheer, dizzying, statistical impossibility of any of those things happening in one lifetime. And so even though my meeting sucked, I still felt okay. I felt good. I felt joy. Because, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, screw that producer. Screw that dude. Screw him and everyone who takes time out of their day to make you feel like a jerk. Like you're no good at what you do, even though you've been doing it all of your life. People like that are people who haven't felt pure, unadulterated joy in a long time. They couldn't access that emotion if they tried. And it is easy to get bummed out by them. And everything else your career throws at you. Jobs fall through. Projects can stretch on for years, little or no payoff. Haters hate. Something monetization. It's the easiest goddamn laugh ever. As easy as it is to get bummed out, it's even easier to let that give way to cynicism, to anger. Maybe you start to lash out at others. Maybe you become that dude. Don't become that dude. Our memories, our feelings are reusable. And we have a choice on what feelings we choose to reuse. That dude and all of the other that dudes like him make the choice to reuse cynicism and anger. But joy is also reusable. Joy is the element that can and must be used, reused, and reused on a day-to-day, minute-to-minute, second-to-second basis. Now, friends, I'm no Pollyanna. I'm actually having a terrible month. And I'm doing this, I'm saying this out loud, so you can hear it, and so I can hear it. I'm not here to tell you, look on the bright side. I'm just telling you to occasionally remember the bright side. Remember the thing that made us foolhardily pursue our dreams in the first place. Getting out of doing homework. Realizing what you want to do for the rest of your life. being told, hey, you kids did all right. Those things don't change, and those things can never be taken away. So get out there and reuse your joy, please. And if any of you out there are looking to invest in a movie idea, dig this. 3 blind mice, zombie cat decapitators. Title may need a little work, but rest assured, it ends with a speedboat chase. Thank you very much for your time.
Josh A. Cagan. Okay, if anybody would like Josh to explain one of his jokes, now is the time. We have a person from Los Angeles here. Somebody, you must have a question for him.
Oh yeah, why did you, what?
Without opposable thumbs, how do they decapitate?
Well, I mean, it's a Evil Dead type thing. They just tape it, it's groovy, squeak. Actually, I don't know why he'd look at his paw. He's blind.
What's the story that you won the playwriting contest?
Oh, so it was called Sex, Violence, and the American Way, and it was 5 monologues, 5 or 6 monologues, ran about a half hour, meant to be performed by the same performer. When I was coming of age as a theater dork in the 1980s, Eric Bogosian, Spalding Gray, Lily Tomlin, there was sort of a big push to have these sort of performance arty one-person shows. So it was, I mean, rest assured, it was really bad. Like, there were monologues about, like, one of the monologues was like about a kid who just lost his virginity and then was regretting it, which was the sourest of grapes. There was like a homeless lady who talked sense. What the hell else was there? Oh yeah, it was just sort of like, this is a triptych of what it's like to be in America, written from the perspective of a 14-year-old white kid from an affluent suburb. So it was really bad. The end. Yes, sir. Great hair.
What is the best meeting you've ever been to?
That's a great question. If one exists.
Could you repeat the question?
Yes. No. What is the best meeting I'd ever been to? Okay. So I work with 4 other guys occasionally. We're called the Job Factory, aim high, and we're a writing team. And we were just getting started, and we had written a superhero parody movie. Because parody movies were sort of coming back into vogue, but they were all terrible. So we were like, so let's make a good one. How about that? So we went in to pitch the 2 actors who were going to be in it and produce it, and then also their producer. Now, we were explicitly told by our manager to just pitch basic themes and ideas, and to not actually pitch jokes or beats or the story. So we were sitting around the table, and one of the actor producers was like, all right, let me tee this up. It's gonna be like Spider-Man, only funny. And the producer was just sort of like, what? There's like 12 guys in this room and that's all you have? So everybody sort of uncomfortably looked at each other. As a side note, they had Red Bull in the commissary while we were waiting, and I had a couple. So there was about 10 seconds of really pained silence, and then I just started talking. And I basically pitched the entire first half hour of the movie, every joke's, doing voices, smacking my buddies on the back saying, do that bit, do that thing you wrote, okay, this, blah. And then I just sort of sat down, and the producer sort of nodded and went, okay, cool. As we were walking, and we ended up actually getting the gig. Of course, the movie never got made because no movies ever get made. It's shocking to me that movies come out every Friday. Shocking. And as we were walking out of the pitch, one of the actors turned to me and was like, "You're like that motherfucking frog from the cartoon." That's my favorite meeting.
All right, I think we'll end on a high point there. Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming, guys. And thanks to Zero. Get your accounting all handled, and of course Perisoma for hosting us and being lovely people. See you next time. Bye-bye.